Oh, hello there, everyone, and welcome to episode number 68 of FinalBossTV, your WoW Endgame rating show. I'm your host. My name's Adam K, aka Bay, and totally ready for this episode in my Alliance robe. For some reason, I don't know, I just felt like it was cold in Florida, I guess, maybe, who knows? And today is Resto Shamans, aka how many bindings of chain heal to put on your hotbar. Joining me today is going to be Vixsin and Keehn. But first, before that, you may know who this guy is. I don't know who this. He's wearing a robe too. Hi, Affy. Is this what your name is? Hi. Hello.
Hello. Hi. I am wearing a robe, but yeah, you have my robe because I want the Alliance robe now, and I rebel against the Horde now. So.
I talked to you at BlizzCon about this. All right. You should have bought the Alliance robe.
If I came prepared, I would have. I should have bought one of both. I thought about it, and then I was like, no, it's fine. And then, you know. Should have done it, could have done it, would have done it, didn't.
At least the robe you're wearing is clean right now, though, right? Not the red one.
Oh, yeah, no, the red one's, yeah, that's tucked away to never be brought back out.
Don't bring that up. That's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, alrighty then. Joining us from a remote location in some dungeon of a castle over the seas, there's Keehn. Hello, sir. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you.
You're very welcome for being here. Apparently, you have some weird following that I didn't know about, because when I was asking about Resto Shamans, people were like, bring Keehn on! And I was like, who the hell is Danish Terrace? But, you guys kicking some ass right now, though. A little bit. Just a little bit of butt.
Yeah, we did pretty good in Heimel.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
pretty good.
I guess World 15 is it's acceptable.
Acceptable. Oh. Right, of course. Acceptable. Not a fan. All right, not bad. And returning to the show for Resto Shamans again, almost a year plus later, easily. My goodness. Hi, Vixsin. How you doing?
I'm doing good, although not as good as Danish Terrace, obviously, but still doing. Doing okay, moderately okay.
That should be fine. Well, I mean, we talked about that before when we were setting up the show up, like that you guys are 9th US, right? No, 8th US. Mm-hmm. But in the same span that Danish Terrace is 9th, there's like 40-something guilds between the two of you in the world.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, it's a lot of distinction between the EU and the US race.
Yeah, no, it's pretty wild. But we'll get right into Resto Shaman talk now. I'm excited for this. This is the first healer episode of Warlords of Draenor, so there's a little bit, I don't know, a little bit of salt, I would say, in the water, maybe.
Just a small amount.
Might be. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a touch of salt. So Keehn, it's your first time on the show here. So you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and Danish Terrace, maybe? Just a little bit?
Well, obviously, I'm from Denmark, and I made my Resto Shaman, which I've been playing since Cataclysm, where I joined Danish Terrace, and we were World 2500, and then we just kept aiming for better and better ranking. For every raid patch, and now we're here at World 15th in Heimel.
Yeah, just a little bit. That's a huge jump, though.
Yeah, a huge jump.
Just a little bit. 2500th.
Yep.
To 15th.
Yeah.
Just a small game.
That's a little bit. Just a little upgrade. That's crazy. And Vixsin, for those that don't know who the heck you are.
I'm Vixsin. I'm from Life in Group 5. It's a blog. I'm a Resto Shaman theory crafter, blogger, and I'm in Promethean, who went to Stormweaver for the start of Heimel. So I've been in them for, I think I actually hit my 2-year anniversary, which is pretty incredible for me in my history of collapsed guilds. So
that's right. Promethean was one of the guilds that did change servers. Why was that anyway? What was?
We were moving from a server that had no economy, no real competition. So the economy was horrible. We couldn't get materials. We couldn't find the materials we needed, consumables and whatnot. So we went to a higher pop server.
Yeah. Well, Is your server merged with other people right now, or is the server strong enough to not be one of those merged squishy ones?
I don't know, actually. I think we are merged with somebody, and maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong there. I thought we did have a merge of some sort, but it is a pretty robust population. It's strongly Horde, but the Alliance are vengeful.
Oh, is that
so,
what?
They put up a fight.
Well, I hope so. I mean, isn't the global population right now much more Horde favored, I think, in the whole game?
I think so. Though I thought a good number of guilds switched over to Alliance for the racials this time around in Warlords.
Well, that's slippery. That's slippery. Because now apparently the Alliance has the best raid racial or something. Like, I don't know about that.
There was a lot of PvPers that switched that were Horde. I mean, there wasn't like a whole lot of, but I thought there was a couple that had switched to Alliance as well.
Really? Like,
from what I remember.
Predominant PvPers, yeah?
Yeah, I don't remember who, but I thought there was. I mean, I don't follow PvP, so it's,
right.
whatever.
What is that? Are there dragons in PvP? I don't...
There's not, so who cares?
Who cares? Exactly. So what do you guys think of Warlords so far? I'll kick it over to Keehn first. How's the expansion been for you, sir? We're obviously much busier than previous ones, yeah?
Yeah. Well, it was a pretty shitty launch with a few days where we weren't actually able to play and level. But I mean, after that, it's been slow and steady, leveling 2 ults and then gearing them up for raiding. And then we did 2 split clears through Highmall, normal, and heroic to gear our mains. But it's been very chill.
Yeah? Is it? I mean, you didn't use split runs. You didn't do split runs before this expansion, I would assume.
No, this is the first time.
Wow, yeah, it's the first time that I'm doing it as well. We're only doing 1, so like we're baby steps. You know, I don't know. Affinity, how many did you guys do?
5, 6? I don't remember. I didn't have that many characters. I had like 3 or 4 because I raged so hard at leveling. Oh my god, Illidan was worse because you would finally get in through the queue, and then you'd be playing along, and then it's like the game would DC you so hard that you would get at the back of the queue again. So I think like the first 48 hours I was looking at like a 7,000 plus person queue, and then I'd get through and then get kicked again. So one of the worst expansion launches for me personally. I think I wasn't too big of a fan of that for sure.
Yeah, I think because the EU got, that's what Keehn was saying, but EU got the launch first this time around.
Right.
Which was like a reverse psychology thing because your launch was riddled with, I can't play. And then when we got to the American launch and I just logged in when I got home, I was no big deal. But I've heard, depending on what server you were on, yeah, it was pretty awful.
Yeah, Illidan was a pretty big, massive trap on that. I know there was a couple of other high pop servers that were pretty rough, but I mean they finally threw in some additional server tech into it and finally fixed a lot of the issues. And it would have been nice if they did it beforehand, but I guess they weren't expecting. I mean, they never really do hit their mark on their expectations with it, so I guess it's kind of expected. But they fixed it relatively quick, and it turned out pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
Just frustrating at the start.
That was a couple days. I mean, everyone at this point should realize that it's not going to be totally smooth, right?
Yeah.
Never going to happen. Never going to happen. So outside the launch, how have Resto Shamans been so far?
The loaded question.
Is that a loaded question?
The loaded
question
of the hour. I mean, I know Keehn has a very positive perspective on this. I think we've been doing okay. I don't think it's been the disaster that a lot of doomsayers thought it would be. But I think like any start of the expansion, we've had our bumps. And that's the problems that we've been seeing crop up are the same problems that we've seen crop up in previous expansions as well. So it's nothing new. And I'd say we've been doing okay. But I don't know, maybe Keehn has a more positive perspective.
Yeah, I'm very positive because considering how we were on beta, I was just frustrated when I first logged in and I couldn't just spam chain heal like I was used to in Siege. So we just have to evolve this new playstyle where we were weaving in a lot of healing waves because we just couldn't sustain mana to spam this raid heal. But I think it's been all right.
Well,
not that bad.
that I guess that sort of jumps us to, I mean, Affinity, you can talk about active mana regen because it was bad, and every expansion, like, they talk about how it's going to be like, you have to pay attention to your mana healers, all right? This is the expansion for you.
Yeah. They've done that a couple times now, haven't they? Where they're like, you're going to have to start focusing on it. And then they added in spells they removed like Innervate and stuff from people. And then they're like, we don't want that. And then they added like something back to everybody. And then they're like, wait, hang on a second. We don't actually like this. And then they pulled it away. I thought it was kind of a cool mechanic. But then they got rid of it. But Shaman still, I mean, you guys still have a talent for it. So you guys still have a little bit of active regen. But, I mean, do you feel pigeonholed into it as a result because it is a talent and it's not baseline?
I mean, I definitely do. I think it's hard to ignore when you have a talent that provides a good chunk of spirit, 1,000 spirit for you per cast for the following 8 seconds. That's a good amount of regen, and it's hard to turn that amount of regen down, especially when you're in an environment where you're mana starved. You may not have the spirit pieces that you want. You might have gotten one of those non-spirit pieces out of your cache or out of doing your challenge mode gearing, which was really frustrating. So you're starting out at a spirit deficit, and you want to cast Chain Heal because there's a lot of raid damage going out, and Chain Heal is bloody expensive. I mean, the expensiveness of it went through the roof. As Keehn was talking about, when we stepped onto the PTR, you could cast a handful of Chain Heals and then that's it. You're done. So that forces you into taking a talent which can sustain a little more throughput.
Yeah, but talent, of course, talking about is Elemental Blast, which is an interesting thing of itself because, like Affinity said, like, you're one of the only few classes that actually even has a choice in having active mana regen, which they talked about for so long. But then I guess they couldn't get it to work, even though you have it in a talent, and Disc Priests have it through shields, and what does Holy Paladins have again? I just drew a blank totally. Oh my goodness.
That one spell that does that stuff that like they've always had.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I don't want to. This is like the saltiest thing to say is that Mistweavers don't even care about mana still.
I think, I mean, the intent behind it was that it was something that was spammable as opposed to, you hit it on cooldown like Elemental Blast is. So I think that worked a little bit differently, and they probably, I mean, that was my concern with Druid. I'll only say this once because we're not going to pull Druid class on this one, but that was my concern with it, was that they removed it and then they didn't give us anything back. So at least Shaman have the option, but yeah, when you put it into a talent, it's not really situational. It's more like once you have too much gear, then you spec out of it, and that makes that talent row, I would say that makes that talent row a little less interesting than it probably could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think to jump in, it irks me a little bit when people say, at least you have it, because it's this idea that, well, okay, at least you have access to the additional mana. But the problem there is you can't balance the regen that you would have through Elemental Blast and the regen that you wouldn't have through Elemental Blast and expect those two healing models to be the same, because it has such a significant impact on the number of chain heals that you can cast, or the number of healing surges that you can cast, the number of expensive spells that you can use. You can't say that those are the same healing models. So the question is then, where do you balance that class? Do you balance it around using Elemental Blast, or do you balance it around not? And then if you balance it around using it, what happens to the players who can't do that, or who don't use it effectively or optimally? You're leaving them out in the dark with less mana to use than they would have.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because on that talent tier, we're looking at that again with the Elemental Blast being the problem here. You're looking at a single target healing increase, a long cooldown to increase all your healing through having the Primal Elementalist Fire Elemental channel into you, or Spirit. So we're looking at throughput, single target throughput, and then just more mana. And right now, when mana is a big deal, I don't know why. When I first saw this change on the beta, I was really curious to why they left it at 1,000 spirit. Because that's a big jump, considering you only get spirit from jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, trinkets, rings, necklace, cape. So that
It's a pretty absurd amount.
yeah. I mean, Keehn, have you run Elemental Blast like since launch? Or
Yeah, I haven't felt like it would be viable to run with the other talents because you would just run and you wouldn't have that breather with the added spirit that you gain from Elemental Blast.
yeah. And how much spirit do you even have in your gear right now, Keehn? Like if you look at your flat amount of gear.
I think it's 500, about 500, 400 from gear.
Yeah, from gear, right?
Yeah, so it's 1,200.
So why is there a talent that almost doubles the effectiveness of that stat? That seems a little required, almost. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is though, Elemental Blast was so unattractive for Restos
True.
Previously, so they had to do something to make it attractive for Resto Shaman. But it's a huge shoehorn, and it's no small amount of time that you also spend casting Elemental Blast. You're spending, the 1 point whatever seconds or 2 seconds to cast it every 12 seconds. So you're looking at, when you look at Shaman logs of using Elemental Blast, they have these regular Elemental Blast casts for the entirety of the fight. That's a lot of time that you're spending trying to do that active regen.
Yeah. Now, so that makes me wonder, though, should all the 90 talents for Resto Shaman, and this sort of, caveats onto that, I think every healer, if they're going to have talented choices for mana regen, should, maybe like when you take Primal Elementalist, when you're channeling the Fire Elemental onto you, it like increases your spirit regeneration for the minute it's on you, obviously in a different amount than the Elemental Blast would. Or maybe when you take Unleashed Fury, your next heal you cast is not only empowered but cheaper, so that you have some interactions in choosing. Or is that too much? Affinity's like, oh no, this. Like, is that too much choice? Because having one choice that is the best one means you have no choice. But, because this brings into the future of Resto Shamans, going into Blackrock, which I don't want to jump ahead to the 6-1 changes just yet. So, it makes you wonder, though. I'm just curious, because we just came off the coattails, the episode of the Blood DKs, who have like no talent choices, and this is a tier right off the bat for Resto that you don't have a choice in.
I think if they added a region to the Primal Elementalist, it would be a no-brainer as well, because it's a fairly strong buff that you get from these elementals. A 10% increase for almost or an entire minute, that's pretty huge, I think. And then if you add mana regen on top of that, you just take that instead of Elemental Blast.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the problem, well, historically at the start of the expansion, I mean, we had in Cataclysm, we had the Teleric Current Abuse. In MOP, we had the Healing Stream recall abuse, but a way to get mana back. So if you think about it, shoehorning Spirit into Elemental Blast was a kind of solution for that starter time of the expansion, where Shaman historically have needed a lot more mana because our resurgence hadn't kicked in significant amount of returns yet.
Right.
But I'm no I'm no soothsayer or able to predict the future, but with resurgence toned back in Warlords and significantly scaled back in terms of the percent returns that we're seeing from it now, it's possible that in future tiers we may still need that spirit. We may still turn to Elemental Blast because we need to use more Chain Heal if we're not seeing tier bonuses that significantly reduce our mana costs, because we're going to need to rely on Chain Heal. It's our mana dump. It's our spammable AoE heal. So I don't know that we can completely discount Elemental Blast as a first tier only sort of talent and say, well, we'll move on to something else later on.
Yeah, because I mean, the healing model they tried to tote around it and build was that you don't actually continuously gain an absurd amount of mana regen as the tier goes on, because you sort of start with this baseline of what your spirit regen will give you based off your character. And then as you gain more spirit, the amount you gain proportionally isn't like ridiculous. So you won't be just spam happy by the end of tier 18, which we may or may not see that. So I don't know. It's interesting right now.
So why don't we move into a little bit more into the future, a little bit of 6-1, maybe some Blackrock, but even current stuff. What do you guys feel that Resto Shaman shine at? Less about what they're bad at, but what do you think that Shaman are good at? What are they good for?
Yeah, Keehn, you have the positive take on this.
We have a strong toolkit. I mean, for our cooldowns, we have a healing tide, we have spirit link, and we have ascendance. I mean, we are stronger than most other healers with our cooldowns because we have so many choices, especially with spirit link totem.
Yeah, well, that always makes me sort of wonder, like, that's in here too. Is the best tool that a shaman brings right now, Resto Shaman, Spirit Link Totem? Like, are you okay? Like, if they removed it, would you see a raid spot?
I think that answers that. Yeah.
What else can they remove from us? I mean,
It would
we've
be
already
pretty
removed.
sad if they did.
Yeah, we've removed Ancestral Vigor. We're now, if they
Yep.
remove Spirit Link, I don't know. I would hate to see that world. I think it's a really strong cooldown, and it's really strong in the environments that we've seen in Highmaul and in the ones that we're going to see in Blackrock, where there's burst damage that you need to smooth out and even out. And that's really key now when we're talking about other healers needing to use mana conservative rotation. Spirit Link is incredibly powerful for making mana efficient spells slowly top the rate off and getting the most effectiveness that you can out of your most efficient spells. So it's very powerful in that regard.
Yeah.
I don't know if we were going to bring up the echo changes as well, since that.
Might as well.
Well, chat's talking about it right now, and if
Yeah.
you haven't seen the supposed 6-1 changes, Echo the Elements will be giving charges to things,
It scares me.
and Spirit Link Totem will have 2 charges. Now, it looks like how the charge system will work is that when you use 1, it'll start cooling down that 1. And if you have 2, I don't know if they will cool down simultaneously. I would imagine it's like a train set where it will cool.
I would
think
expect
it's
it to
like
work
train
like
set.
yeah, I would expect it to work like all the other charges have with the other spells. So I mean, that adds I would say that adds a lot of additional utility to the class if you can drop 2. Probably, I mean, it's really going to depend on how the fights work. Like I think like Beast Lord Darmak would be a great fight to have an additional like entire cooldown that you might have access to. So I think it'd be good in that regard.
Yeah. Man, are there any other fights? I mean, Affinity just brings up Beast Lord, but Keehn, what are you thinking of in the future? I know you can't like tell us your strategies, but I mean, what fights are you looking forward to as Resto Shaman, like in particular, in Blackrock?
I didn't particularly like any of them. I thought a lot of them had way too much movement for a Resto Shaman point of view. So, I mean, I was almost hurling at them.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
Well, I mean, you can always glyph, super spirit walk. I mean, come on, or oh my goodness, I'm losing names right now.
God,
What is
Spirit
it?
Focus?
Spirit walk is Grace. Spirit walk Grace. Yeah. Because
you were close.
That was close, exactly.
You're close.
So nothing that you can think of that you want to name, like in particular, that you're maybe Vixsin has some that you've looked at or tested that are looking good for Resto.
I didn't test a lot of the ones in Blackrock. I didn't get a chance to really get into them too much. I'm looking forward to Beast Lord. I'm not looking forward to Iron Maidens. But I'm with Keehn. I think the fights had a lot of movement, and the tendency, at least initially in testing, most oftentimes is spread out. Just everybody spread out. Like, until we figure out how we can effectively handle this damage, let's everybody spread out. And that was the strat for Blackhand, for Gruul, for everything. It was just spread out. And for a shaman, that's like the the death knell. That's the thing I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear that I have to move. I don't want to hear that I have to spread out. So that left me kind of worried as well, that I'm going to have to figure out either strats that can work with the Resto Shaman or turn to Glyph of Chaining, which we don't like turning to. So.
Yeah. I was wondering about that. I mean, it's an interesting glyph to make Chain Heal more of a ranged, friendly, spread out ability, but then, of course, I'm sure there are probably weird implications with the cooldown and efficiency, but...
Personally, I like the glyph.
Oh.
I think it's an amazing glyph. I use it in pretty much all the fights. I mean, I think it's only Butcher where I glyph or take it off because you actually only have to heal melee. But I mean, if you have that added value that it can bounce off of melee then into range and actually hit everybody in the raid, I think it's a huge buff, even though you get the 3-second CD on it.
Yeah, well, you said earlier too, Keehn, that you've sort of grown into used to this, like the back and forth chain healing wave-ish style anyway.
Yeah.
So I guess the glyph sort of forces that anyway. So after you chain heal, you're gonna either Riptide and then wave or wave or something like that. So.
Yeah, and you don't even have the mana to sit and spam chain heal, so you might as well glyph it.
Mm.
That's my perspective.
True. Fair enough.
No, I think it's a viable perspective, and I think it's something that a lot of Resto Shaman have had to get used to since Warlords, is that going back to the spell weaving that we used to see, well, I guess in Wrath a little bit when we had the whole spell weaving introduced, and in Cataclysm certainly at the start, where you can't just sit there and spam chain heal endlessly. You have to use a mana conservative rotation at times. You have to spend mana at times. So in that regards, Glyph of Chaining is definitely fits into that very well, because you can use that downtime, that 3 seconds that you have, to toss out Riptides, to drop your healing stream, to manage the litany of global cooldowns that we have to manage through the course of a fight, or cast Elemental Blast. So.
Yeah, exactly. You got to weave in Elemental Blast every every 12 seconds. So I mean, you're already on an eternal timer. And I wonder, do you have to like always make sure you have it every 12? Because I guess every time you don't recast it immediately, you're losing effectiveness of the buff and having the talent. So, ugh, gross. Well, something else.
A lot of cooldowns. It's a lot of cooldowns. I mean, Shaman have a lot of mini cooldowns that we have to manage, and that's gotten even more to be the case in Warlords, where you have the mini healing stream cooldown, and if you choose to go Cloudburst Totem, which I'm sure nobody does except for me, that's another cooldown that you have to use. So it's a lot of little mini cooldowns. You have your Unleash Life cooldown, you have your Healing Rain cooldown. If you choose not to glyph Riptide, you have the Riptide cooldown. So it's a lot of things. So working in Glyph of Chaining is not that difficult. I just think it's a preference. Some Shaman just prefer not to deal with it.
Yeah. That is true. I mean, that makes sense. I'm with you on that one. You're talking about mini cooldowns for Shaman, and have been enhancements since Burning Crusade. And, like, the ability prune for me was hilarious. They took away 2 spells and gave you back 2 spells. All right, cool. We're breaking even. All right, nothing changed for me.
Some classes definitely got hit harder by the spell pruning for sure. And, I mean, I haven't really played my Shaman much, but it sounds like more of a pain than playing, like, a Resto Druid, where we basically have 3 buttons and like one major cooldown that we're really worried about. So, I mean, do you prefer the playstyle where you have more to micromanage? Do you feel that it might add a slight advantage to your gameplay and your throughput if you're able to do it better than somebody else? Or do you just kind of feel like it's something that you just have to deal with because that's how the class is right now?
Let's go with positive first. Oh, Vixin first, then we'll go to Keehn.
Oh, no, I mean, I don't think I don't feel particularly skilled when I use all my cooldowns correctly. I just feel like, okay, I'm doing moderately okay healing now.
Right.
And you're right, it's certainly a different style than when I swap onto my Druid, and it's much more smooth, and I can get into blanketing mode, and I can get a better perspective on the raid. I think Shaman is a lot of little mini timers that you need to be tracking in your head. You need to either that or have great weak auras in front of you. I'm not sure that the ability pruning really helped. However, The one thing that I can say that I like about Shaman and where they are right now is that typically when you look at our spell composition for a kill or whatever else, you'll see a large population of spells. You won't see like druids, you'll see rejuve and germination.
Shots fired.
And,
Shots fired.
And no, I mean that's not no fault to them.
Right,
just
right,
like
right.
priests, you'll see power word shield, and that's it.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Rag on the disc priest. Go for it. Yeah.
That's a whole nother segment. But like for Shaman, you should see a good component, a good mixture of their spells across the board. You shouldn't see any one spell dominating. And that to me is a really good thing because we're coming off, Siege, where it was like drop your healing tide, drop your healing stream, drop your healing rain, and then AFK for the rest of the fight. And the choices that you made in terms of who you targeted for heals really didn't matter, and it really didn't contribute to your overall throughput. So in that regard, I feel like the choices that I make do have some impact. That's just my 2 cents.
All right. Keehn, what do you think?
I feel it's rewarding to keep track of all these small things, because if you learn to min-max it, you learn to like draw the full power or potential of your class. But then again, it's pretty depressing to see that you try and you do everything you can, and then you see a disc priest just spamming the powered shields, and I mean they top the meters anyway.
Yeah.
Even though you have all these 10 abilities that you have to keep track of and use regularly.
I think I'll have to do discipline priests or priest healing like as the last healing episode, so that every other healer can get off all their like get all the salt and get all the chips off their shoulders first, and then talk about disc at the end. Yeah, that'll have to be how we do it.
Oh, it's not their fault.
That's gonna be a great episode.
That'll be just woo, yeah.
I look forward to the disc episode. That's gonna be wonderful.
Yeah, I know, right? Drevka, prepare yourself, and whoever else we find. That'd be good.
Oh.
So then, I guess to help in that same looking forward to Blackrock, then how is BRF going to improve Resto Shaman? Mostly on the case of the tier 17 set bonuses, which I'll open this topic with the fact that, like, for me and the DPS that I would gain from having the heroic 4-piece before we went into mythic, losing the eye levels from each, these small gain on my single target damage, like, I don't really want it. So I was curious if some guilds are gonna find in their organization and how they do their stuff is to give healers 4-set, which I was talking about this before setting up the show, and Affinity starts laughing at me. So, is the 4-set or the 2-set and the 4-set for Resto Shaman going to be a big benefit to you guys? Vixsin, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's a sizable benefit. The 2-piece duplicating chain heal is the smart healing that we wanted to avoid, so we removed, but we're putting it back in tier 17 2-piece. So that's smart healing is great, and it in the PTR testing that I did do, it was doing about 3 to 6% of my effective healing, and it was low overhealing to boot. And it was duplicating the behavior, at least that I can recall, and somebody will have to correct me if I'm wrong here, at least that I can recall. If you chose High Tide to get the 6 targets, my understanding was it was maintaining that High Tide 6 target jump. So you were seeing Chain Heal get so much stronger. Now the 4-piece is iffy. Because it is a chance to proc based on tidal waves, and realistically your tidal waves should be up for the entire fight. Between your Riptide cast, between your Chain Heal cast, you should have close to 100% tidal waves. But because it's a random proc, it can proc when there's absolutely no raid damage going out. And then you're in the situation of do I or do I not use Chain Heal in that environment? I guess I have a buff that reduces its mana cost, so I might as well cast it. And it's not, I feel, as elegant a solution as the one that they have in place for druids, which is after 2 successive healing touch casts, I think, then your next wild growth is reduced, which is, I think, a much better implementation.
Controllable bonuses versus chance.
Control with healers is always important, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just the baseline to any healing. Anything in a raid is a chance on anything is typically something you want to try and avoid if you can.
Well, it comes down to self-tuning as well. You want to be able to, and smartly self-tune as well, so you know that damage is coming out, so that you can get in whatever prerequisites you need to get that bonus and use it optimally. There's nothing worse than the feeling of, I have a proc and I can't put it to use. And I know DPS complain about their trinket procs during burst all the time, but in this case I feel like Resto Shaman will be able to appreciate that, because we'll get procs that we won't be able to put to use. So I don't know how much that 4-piece is really going to impact our throughput. It has the potential to be huge. It also has the potential to be quite nominal.
Yeah. Just to catch everyone up, if you haven't seen the bonuses yet, or if you are a shaman, you know what we're talking about for other healers, the 2-piece bonus for Resto Shaman is that you have a chance on chain heal cast to basically netherwind out another chain heal. Just doubles it. And then the 4-piece is an 8% chance whenever you gain tidal waves for your next chain heals in 10 seconds to be 75% cheaper on the mana pool. So that's why Vixen's talking about how you could get your proc with tidal waves and your chain heal could be super cheap and then get something to heal. So you can cast it, sure. So, I mean, I would hope that it works itself out to be an overall benefit. Obviously, the 2-piece sounds pretty good. So, I mean, Keehn, what do you think of your set bonuses going into Blackrock?
Yeah, it has a huge potential. If you get lucky and it procs at the right time, you could just sit and spam chain heals for 10 seconds and don't care about the cost, because it gets cheaper than Riptide.
Now, does that mean that you would not use Glyph of Chaining in the case that it would?
Yeah, with the 4-piece, I would remove the glyph and just sit and spam chain heal for days. Yeah. Because it would get, it would devalue it too much to have the cooldown on it when you can just spam it for free, almost, for 10 seconds.
And that's a really awkward interaction too. Is that you want Glyph of Chaining is really great in certain circumstances. It's really great for burst because you can really power up one chain heal to be a massive hitting chain heal. But the problem when you have that Glyph of Chaining and you have a 4-piece proc is you're stuck not using it to its fullest potential. So now you can't Glyph of Chaining and you're stuck at using something else or having that reduced jump distance and hoping that your melee or your Riptide targets are always going to be in range.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Especially for Blackrock, when we see these fights where we are going to be spread out most of the time, so we can't actually use the full potential of chain heals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very true.
That's a frustrating interaction. I didn't actually think of that, like building the show notes. That actually comes down to an interesting... Well, that's not very fun.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bum you out.
I mean, the bounce...
It's something to think about.
The bounce chain on chain heal without the glyph is not terrible. But
it's not great.
Yeah, it's not terrible, but historically, you're not going to be able to get all the bounces. When you had higher density, and certainly when you have like a 30-person heroic, you can see it. But when you move into mythic content and you maybe have less melee or your ranged is out in the middle of nowhere, certainly your hunter is guaranteed to be off in BFE, it's way reduced potential. You're going to see 4 hits even though you maybe are running with high tide. You might see a 5 hit, and it's just gonna be hard.
Yeah. That's really weird. And that goes off what Affinity said too, is because it is a chance. And anything you get the chance that you have to make a weak aura or a tell me when or something to watch this because you want to take advantage of it when it's up. And that, from a Resto Shaman point of view already we went over, is you already have enough you're paying attention to. You have enough mini little cooldowns and things.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
It's a lot to juggle. That's for
more
sure.
things.
Yeah, that's so weird to me. I don't know. Well, I think we can move on from that. If you want to take us into the next chunk, Affy, go right ahead.
Oh, God. I mean...
I got to make you do some work, all right? You agreed to this!
I did, I know. So, this was also actually mentioned in chat that people were interested in. And this probably, I would assume, wouldn't change too dramatically with the 6-1 changes. But where do you feel that your stat priorities really lie right now? and what are you really aiming for with your gearing?
Yep, you can choose. Keehn, what are you doing?
Well, I just look around and see what people have calculated all the stats to be, or the weights of the stats, and then I try it out, and I yeah just figure out how I want to play around with myself. I mean, I stack mastery and haste if I can get around it, and then crit for the third stat, and then I don't really care about the rest.
So you
Mastery,
are
haste, and crit is the most important for me.
yeah. So you are going haste first though, which is your attunement stat.
For mastery.
Yeah, but you are still actually okay. So I know Vixen has a different opinion on on deep
No.
healing. Oh no.
No, I mean I think mastery is by far our strongest stat, and it's not a particularly sexy stat. It's not something that makes you do oodles of throughput in most situations. You can get a rare situation where your mastery is going to come into play, and then you'll look like a god. When, like we were talking about in the pre-show, when you have that one unleashed fury healing surge crit on a tank and you hit him for 300,000 and it's like, oh, god mode has happened. But that's few and far between. But I still think mastery is so critical to doing the spot healing and kind of providing that baseline layer of healing on the raid that we do really well. And after that, I'm not so much a fan of haste. Only because of its mana impacts, because it leaves me with less to deliver. And I'll turn to crit maybe as a secondary. But then after that, I really don't care. It's mastery first and foremost, and then everything else that follows I'm okay with. And we're seeing a lot of haste on our pieces anyway,
Yeah.
so we'll get that.
So is there no? I know back when you could actually control your stats a little more, like in MOP and whatnot. Is there like a level of haste that you want to feel comfortable? Like some classes right now, like I'm gonna get to 15% and then nothing else. I don't care. Or you want a certain amount. Do Resto Shamans want a certain amount to feel smooth or anything like that, or that really isn't a concern anymore?
I generally don't. I don't look at haste as anything more than a way to really land my spells faster, and in that regard, I don't want it. I want to rely on my ability to be proactive and predict and go for throughput stats. It can be certainly effective when when we're talking about the 4-piece bonus. Haste is going to certainly be important to getting out as many CH casts during your 4-piece proc as you can. So I'm sure we'll see greater valuation of haste going forward. And certainly when we start getting into mana surplus environments where we have more mana to burn, haste
Right.
is always going to be our tuning fork. And that's been a constant in Shaman since Wrath, since prior to that, I guess BC as well.
Yeah. Do you have to bring in like Resto Druids out of this too, Affinity? Do you guys have any breakpoints too? I know chat's wondering about like if stats even matter at that point anymore. Do you even?
I mean, I guess it depends on how you're playing, really. Some people are going full haste and then mastery, and then some are going full mastery and then a little bit of haste. But I don't think, at least from a healer perspective, I don't think there's really any attainable breakpoint where like mastery starts to like lose its value and that you would gain more from haste or anything. I think that's more of a DPS thing more so than a healer thing in that case. At least with Druid, because our mastery is literally your heals do more healing.
Right, yeah, all the time. Whereas
Right.
the Resto is deep healing, where they only heal more proportionally to the HP you've lost. Or you're
Yeah, and
missing.
this was the thing that I was looking forward to talking about after the pre-show was over yesterday. The healing model that Blizzard kind of pitched at us at BlizzCon was that people
Yep.
weren't necessarily going to be at full health all the time, and that it was okay for people to be a little bit lower. But at least in my experience, I feel like during Mythic Highmaul progression, you didn't really feel like you could leave people low for a while because something was going to kill them at a later point. So you want to try and top them as quickly as you can. So I guess we'll go to Vixen first. Do you feel that Shaman would have been better in a situation where your mastery would have been more utilized in that regard? And do you feel like maybe you got a little gypped by the fact that the healing model didn't exactly pan out as what Blizzard was aiming for.
This is like the perfect setup. Like,
I know,
it's not
right?
like we talked about this at all previously. I do think Shaman's tuning fork has been mastery for balance. And certainly the more absorbs that are present, the less people are injured and the more they are healed up to full, the less our mastery gets tapped into, and the less throughput we do. And I do feel like when we were watching the patch notes come out about Warlords of Draenor, and we didn't see very many Resto Shaman changes, very much at all, in fact, and every single patch notes cycle was, what are they changing about Resto? And there really wasn't anything. Kind of led, I think, me and a number of people in the community to believe that Mastery is going to fix everything. And that generally tends to be the stance. In Cataclysm, we saw it worked out fabulously in the first tier, because Mastery was brought into play, and we saw healers have 10% or 20% overhealing for an encounter. But like right now, I'm looking at our Imperator kill, and we're seeing an average of 35% overhealing for the entire encounter, and that just keeps going up and up. So I feel like they did miss the mark. Our mastery isn't being brought into play as much as it could have been, and that's resulting in our lower performance. And then you get into the question of, well, you know, if they keep toning back Disc Priests, if they keep toning back Paladins and the Absorbs, Resto Shaman will progressively move up. But that's a yarn that we've been hearing for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, they just nerfed Bubble. So, I don't know. I mean, Keehn, anything else to add to that? What do you think?
Yeah, well, Mastery has the potential to make Resto Shamans, if not... the strongest healer, then among the strongest healers. If there were this perfect scenario of consistent damage coming in and keeping us at low percentages so that our mastery could really kick in, we would really shine. But when we have Disc Priest and Holy Paladins just shielding everything up, we barely drop below 50%. So it's hard to see our mastery have any effect on how Resto Shaman play at the moment.
Actually, to confirm this and me, because I don't know how the deep healing percentage works, does it actually not take effect until 70%? Like, do you actually get any bonus to it at 90 or 80%? So it's all.
It's a linear application. Okay. So you get the full contribution when someone is at 1 HP and no contribution when they're at 100% HP. Okay. So for example, on Korag, when you drop Healing Tide after the Shadow debuff has gone out and your raid is at 100%, your Healing Tide is getting 0 benefit of mastery. It has 0 contribution, which is why, like Dayani had mentioned in her recent post about throughput cooldowns, Healing Tide can be such a worse performing throughput cooldown in some situations because of that mastery activation. We need people to be at low percentages for it to activate more. Wow.
Now, is that... I don't know if we've ever actually worked on that right now. I mean, I've been working on Margok now for too long. I wonder if our healing core takes that into perspective on when that cooldown is used. I don't know if I've ever paid attention to it in that way, but that makes sense because the higher HP you are, the weaker Healing Tide is, but the lower you are, the stronger it is. Mm-hmm. Whereas Affinity's Tranquility is the same period, no matter when he uses it. Right. Revival's the same amazing OP-ness whenever it's used.
But it overheals less when people are lower.
Oh, so. Of course.
Right, yeah. Okay. I mean, dare I say, is it time for them to consider a mastery rework for Shaman? Or do you feel that, is that something that you find that you would like to keep as the base with the mastery, but reworking the healing model? Because I feel like they've tried so many times to get the healing model where they want it, and they always seem to miss the mark. And I feel like, the obvious solution is to just remove Discipline Priest from the game entirely.
Well, yeah.
But, they're not going to do that. So I would think, at least from my perspective, I would say maybe it's time to consider a mastery rework. Would you agree with that, or?
I think that's... Deep healing is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful concept. It's great. It's not sexy on meters. And if you play a Resto Shaman, you have to kind of get used or comfortable with that idea. It's not always going to be sexy on meters to heal the one person who's low and save their life while somebody else is blanketing the entire raid. You're not going to get accolades for that unless you have a very good raid leader who's skilled at reading logs. Mastery is great in concept, but it is so dependent upon that ideal healing state being present. And Blizzard has, much to their credit, tried very valiantly to introduce that healing state back into the game again by capping healer mana at a certain value, by significantly tuning back our regen, but we just can't seem to hit that mark. And to me, I feel like at some point we have to say, all right, look, this class has been suffering under this. Oh, it'll happen tomorrow. It'll happen next patch. We'll get them triage, but that other state back. At some point you just have to say, look, we want you guys to be functional. Like, we can't hit the mark, so we need you guys to be functional, and we need to stop giving you hot fixes in the first tier every single expansion. And we've gotten hot fixes. Cataclysm, we had the hot fix in the first tier. Mop, we had hot fixes, and again, we saw hot fixes again in this first tier. And I would suspect, and it's just my hypothesis, because we missed that triage mark, and our mastery wasn't being tapped in as much as it should have been.
There's the word.
She said triage.
She said it.
The word's been out.
Sorry.
Oh no, God!
Oh no!
Ah! Yeah. Well, I mean, that's. But that lends itself, the whole model of Resto Shaman, you're supposed to be able to help people who are low. And no one really stays low. Mm-hmm. And that's why I've lumped Resto Shaman into the support healing category when I was breaking down how, like, the 6 healers sort of, work themselves out. And, like, Mistweaver Monk was in that category too, as the support healer. Even though now, though, like, Mistweaver Monk is pretty damn okay. Like, holy crap. So now it's like, I was the only support healer Resto Shaman now? Because Mistweaver Monk can now AoE and single target heal pretty damn well. So, bah.
I like that summary. Bah.
What, Keehn? What's up?
We're pretty much left with spot healing and then stacked up healing. We don't have the perk of these spread AoE healing. So,
I mean,
we are just a support healer with the spot healing and stacked up AoE healing.
Yeah. Because when they changed the smart healing and smart heals work differently now, so chain heal doesn't always hit the weakest target, and that healing rain doesn't always heal the most injured person in its AoE cap, and healing tide totem, same thing, healing stream totem, same thing. That really nerfed your mastery's ability to be deep healing. That's how all smart heals work now. They heal injured allies, not the most injured. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. I just thought of that, like, right now. Like, wow, that's a huge hit to shaman healing. That might be why it feels so wishy-washy. Awesome.
I mean, I think it's that, and the fact that you have fight mechanics that dictate how good our mastery is going to be as well. And not every fight can have and we talked about this yesterday, not every fight can have that constant pulsing AoE, or they just feel all like ICC or whatever else, and it just feels all the same. So there are fights where we can see burst damage, and maybe Shaman won't be that good, but I don't think we've seen fights where Shaman really shine yet either. And that's kind of a problem.
Yeah. But then, like Affinity said earlier today, if you guys are really utility and Keehn to the same thing too, you have a lot of toolkit, you have a lot of cooldown stuff. So, like, certain fights maybe you're really good at, but that is very supportive that you're brought for your cooldowns and not just like your overall ability to be a good healer. Is that okay? Because I don't think any other healer has thought about like bringing like that. Like, oh, we're going to bring Disc Priest because they have shields that are kind of supportive and good. We'll do that. It's pretty good. No, it's because they're ridiculously good and it's so efficient. So with Holy Paladins now, their niche or niche chat room is that they are like the best tank healer in the game. And they used to be, then they weren't, now they are again. Yeah.
I mean, I think everyone wants to see themselves or their class be brought because of something that they bring that no one else can bring.
Right.
And that's a great feeling to have a guaranteed raid spot. I would love that. I'm not going to argue against the fact that Resto Shaman were brought for so long because Ancestral Vigor, oh, you have to have the Ancestral Vigor buff. Like, don't not bring us because of that.
You were brought for the Mana Tide.
Mana Tide.
And Mana Tide.
That's all I cared about.
Realistic and Mana Tide. It's nice to be acknowledged and brought because of a specific thing. But I think the ideal situation is to be brought because you're a skilled healer. And Blizzard has said that. They started that mantra many, many years ago with bringing the player. And I still firmly believe that should be the ideal that they're striving to. Whether or not their balance and design team agrees with me,
right.
But I feel like I should, given the appropriate skill, given determination and perseverance, be able to be just as good. And in that regard, I think they have reached some success there. And we were talking about it yesterday as well, is that in a lot of guilds, you are still seeing shaman be very good support class healers and still do phenomenal healing and be comparable with everybody else. But you start to see that divergence at the top end where they taper off and absorbed classes tend to get a lot stronger.
Yep. Yeah. Efficiency at the top end sort of really ekes itself out. Yeah.
I mean, you can still technically bring the player and not the class even at top end levels. Method, I would say, is the greatest example of, when Resto Druids were really bad, they would bring 2 for a bunch of fights because their Resto Druids were really good players. But I would say, at least in the case of the Shaman, you can do it, but you're always, I've always felt like we're compensating for something when we have a Shaman in, when it really shouldn't necessarily have to be that way. Like, Midwinter does it really well. They designed a lot of their fights around the fact that they had the Shaman in, so they stacked up as much as they could on a lot of these boss encounters. But should you have to do that? I don't know that you should necessarily have to design an entire strategy around, oh, hey, we have a Resto Shaman, we need to stack. So maybe they should get some other tools that kind of level the playing field a bit, but it is still technically possible, just more compensation isn't always the most ideal thing to do.
Yeah.
I definitely agree there. I mean, I think it irks me to have to be a nag. And that is the one thing that I dislike or continues to be a thorn in my side about the classes. I have to be a nag about let's everybody stack up, or let's stop moving all the way around the entire Imperator room for phase 2 because I need people to be in my healing range for longer than 4 seconds. And at some point you have to kind of give up and just say, forget it. I'm not going to pester anybody anymore with this. But you have that same sort of requirement. Disc would, or Priest would tell you, remind you that Prayer of Healing is very much something that you need to tune around. And were that more of a player in today's healing for Priests, they'd be pestering the raid leader just as much for people in Prayer of Healing groups to be on the same side and be in range, etc. So it's not like there's no other class that needs to worry about that.
Yeah. That is true. Anything more on that, Keehn? Or I'm going to bring up patch 6.1.
Well, I don't think shamans are that weak.
He's so positive. I love it.
I think my guild would agree that I haven't been brought, I've been brought because I'm a skilled player and because I can output numbers, even though I play probably a weaker class than the others.
Well, that's a good thing. I was more than that. I was waiting. Okay, that's
waiting for more.
I know. I was waiting for more.
Nothing more happens.
I mean, that makes sense. That's how it should be.
It should be.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
Could be better though, for sure, for Shaman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, we're still a few steps behind other healers.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to 6.1 then, and there are some buffs incoming and things. The first one I wanted to bring up real quick too, the two healing ones they are going to be buffing slightly Ancestral Guidance, which will include all damage and healing sources, including multi-strikes, which I think is probably a really good benefit for enhancement, because they are nerfing Maelstrom mana cost, so we can't just keep dropping free healing rains. So AG being buffed would probably be okay, but that also really would couple well with Ascendance with Resto. Am I correct in that? Will it actually look pretty good? Do you guys both take like rushing streams now blindly and don't think anything else? So would the AG buff coming make it all right? Keehn? Pretty good, maybe?
I don't know if it would make up for it, but rushing streams is very strong at the moment.
Yeah.
Even though you would probably go conductivity for Butcher to have that 100% uptime on healing rain and still just blindly focus on chain healing the melee group.
Yeah. So you don't think it's gonna really do a whole lot?
Not really. Maybe if it's paired with the Spirit Link talent, so that you have charges, so that you can like couple guidance with every chain or Spirit Link use.
Well, I mean, that dances into a dangerous territory of how we got away from MOP and how everyone like just macroed things together. Then why have two different spells if you're just using them all the time anyway? Yeah. I mean, do you think it's gonna do anything? AG buff, Vixin?
I mean, I think the philosophy there is that you choose AG when your raid is clumped. So when you have a fight where people are stacked and you're taking significant stacked damage, you can turn to AG as a semi cooldown. But the problem is that the large number of fights, and as Keehn mentioned earlier, that we're going to see in Blackrock, they have a significant amount of movement. And in cases where we are moving around, healing stream and rushing stream really becomes the only thing that we can do outside of using Spirit Walker's Grace to heal. It becomes our background healing while we're moving. It also becomes the background healing when we're spread out. So we have both of those cases heading into Blackrock. So I'm not exactly sure where we'll see the usefulness for AG, even if you pair it with Ascendance or Spirit Link. I just think rushing streams is what we're relying on right now for our spread rate healing.
Right.
That really isn't present. Now, if we fix the spread rate healing, absolutely. But that's why rushing streams was brought in the first place, was to help us in spread raid. And that's still going to be useful as we head into BRF.
Well, a lot of what I thought too of rushing streams is that the mana efficiency of not having this on just healing stream totem is so like, but taking rushing streams really makes it mana effective, because it's not really a cheap spell to always have spammed down. But yeah, like not taking rushing streams is almost, it's like a huge downgrade to the ability. Am I mistaken in that, right? I mean, healing one target for less is like...
AG, in its previous iteration, was a good competitor for rushing streams. It's not anymore. The nerf to AG really, really took the teeth off of it. It really just became a pretty bad cooldown to use. So rushing streams, although a passive and something that you don't have to manage, became the preferred choice for that reason. I played around with, and I don't know, Keehn will have to talk about maybe his PTR testing. I played around with conductivity in BRF, thinking that maybe having that constant healing rain down and saving those GCDs would be helpful, but I didn't nearly see the need for it.
Yeah.
Simply because of movement.
Probably very situational for conductivity. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be worth it in Blackrock either. And simply because we're going to be that much spread out and we have to move almost constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think it was, if you had looked at the old paradigm where healing rain was your really expensive AoE heal, and that's the way it was in MOP, then conductivity looked great because you were talking about saving a ton of mana by taking it. But now we have healing rain as our efficient healing spell, so really the only thing we're saving there is the GCDs of dropping it again, and that's just not, it's not going to compete.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
moving into the last major point with 6.1, calm down, car. Okay.
My goodness.
It's just the road. It's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. All right. Go for it.
Anyways, the last major point with the 6/1 changes, at least for now, is the fact that they're increasing healer damage. And basically, the developer commentary was another change being made for 6/1 is to bring damage potential of healers up to a level that is sufficient and balanced. Healer's damage potential will still pale compared to that of a dedicated damage dealer or tank, but should no longer feel like you're totally ineffective when attempting to do some outdoor content. I know from a Resto Druid standpoint, this sees some implications with our talent choices, but do you guys see any real changes with regard to the Telluric current buff being a potential for progression if 6/1 is out in time for that? Or do you think that's really going to focus more on solo content? Vixin?
I mean, every time they say healers can do more damage, I always think, it's not really going to come into play unless you have a very, very hardened rage on a fight that also has a very, very strong healing requirement that maybe isn't present at the start, but is at the end. And we had talked about yesterday, Ultraxian is a prime example of one where you can spend the start of the fight doing DPS, and you also have that hardened rage at the end where that additional DPS is going to contribute. And now, that aside, being able to do more damage would be nice. I mean, starting out Mythic Butcher progression and using Elemental Blast the entire fight and contributing a whopping 400k DPS.
Woo!
Like,
Woo!
Watch out. Yeah, I felt like I was using a Wiffle Bat. So that's nice, but is it going to change anything? I wouldn't say so. And I don't know what people out there are trying to still hold on to the idea of leveling as Resto, but Jesus, make it easier on yourself and just respec.
What is that? What is that? Keehn, what do you think? Are you gonna do damage as a Resto Shaman in your raids? You gonna throw those lava bursts?
Downtime on bosses and you don't actually have to heal, it might be worth it to do the extra damage. And of course, it pulls if you have a Titan Rage timer. You might as well sit and do some damage if the healing is not as required in the beginning. And then I think it's going to be probably a bit important to just keep Flame Shock running on the entire boss, because it's one GCD you use, and then it's going to do massive damage throughout the entire fight.
That might be not too bad to think about. I mean, again, you're talking about little things to micromanage. I mean, that's
another
like the
micromanage cooldown, yay!
Yeah. So you gotta micromanage your Flame Shock dot. You gotta always cast EB. You gotta make sure you're Rip Titan. You gotta make sure you're Chain Healing. You gotta make sure you're Unleash Life. You gotta make sure you're cooldowning. And you've got like 1, 2, 3, 4 major little cooldowns. You got little cooldown with Healing Stream. Yes. So
dare I say that may be too clunky?
Oh no! God. They have the other word. There's the other word.
I'm gonna run out of screen space with all my bloody weak aura.
Yeah, right. I mean, it sounds like a positive, though, so healers don't feel like worthless. Because right now, only 2 healers really get to DPS, which is Fist Weaving Monks and Red Crane, or Heart of the Wild Resto Druids. Which Heart of the Wild Resto Druids can do like 30k burst. It's not too bad. With
there's also Dream of Cenarius, but that's pretty spite. I can't even talk. Fight specific.
Right. Okay.
Which is basically Margok. But yeah, I would say probably not a huge change across the board. I don't know what outdoor content you would want to do as a healer spec, though.
Well, hey, you got those 40-man raid invasions coming.
I mean,
it's like meh.
I guess, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I guess it's an okay thing. I mean, because right now, do healers even can you? I mean, you probably just go DPS spec to go outside, right?
Oh, you think so?
There's no point in glyphing for outdoor content.
Yeah, I switched to Elemental when I do my stupid herb garden in my garrison, because otherwise I'm sitting there forever. I get one of those spore pods. It's like I better put aside 2 minutes to be able to kill the thing.
Oh my gosh. All right. I think herb garden spore pods, that means it's time to take a little break. Let's talk about some things and then we'll come back. And we'll talk a little more seriously about some talents and things. But first off, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about some stuff behind the scenes, or some communities that you may not be aware of that you should go check out. If you are curious about all these 6/1 changes, and you haven't bookmarked and or been on MMO Champion lately, MMO-Champion, this is where you want to look. How much of a patch are we getting in 6/1? Let's just scroll down through, shall we? Boop 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 ba doo 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 still going doo 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 boop 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 doo 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 doo. Oh, there we go. And then there was another PTR build. And there's the Blood Elf models and the new video settings and new items and new strings and all this other craziness. We're still going. So this is where you want to go. Bookmark MMO-champion. Go to MMOC. Get all your patch news. Wow. Speaking is good right now. And that's where you can keep up with all this craziness right there. Oh my gosh, so much. And then when all these patch notes come out, shortly after all that, you want to find out, what the heck am I going to do now? You can also go to Icy Veins, icy-veins.com. Icy Veins for the forums. You got class guides, you got raid breakdowns, you got event stuffs and things, you got quests, garrisons, and if you are a transmog lover, their transmog section is awesome. You can go over and check out Icy Veins. And then yet again, if you're like, well, where are my upgrades? What should I be clicking on because there's more gear coming out in Blackrock Foundry? You can load your character up and Ask Mr. Robot. The button is right here, where it can show you where to. This is the new feature they just added on the bonus roll spending, like where your best upgrades are going to come from and your biggest chances. Right here, load your character up. If you got bags full of gear, you got garrison questions, you got right there. And coming soon, AMR is going to have a very nice, very graphically put together combat log. Super excited for that. I've seen some demo pictures of it. It's going to be very nice in case Warcraft logs is a little too like, whoa, what's going on here? AMR is going to have a combat logging system too that you guys can take advantage of. That will come soon. I don't know when. Soon TM, possibly. But you go check them out. And then, of course, if you've missed any episodes of Final Boss TV in the past, oh my goodness, 67 of them, or of our specials with our On My Own Machinima, or our War Crimes teaser trailer, or our interviews with, Paragon, or other special peoples, or the Warlords cinematic reveal, and the BTS for BlizzCon still coming, and the live raid is still coming. You can go to our YouTube page. Link is down below. That's where all of our stuffs is. You can go check that out. Super awesome. And after this episode, of course, will go up on YouTube as well. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, hi. You should go into the live show, though. Get over here to the live show. Get in the chat room. All right. So now, we have come to the meat and taters of the show. We're going to break down level 100 talents, and then break down some what you guys use on every fight. Well, at least, as long as it makes sense, in Mythic Heimal. So, I want you to bring this up, Affy. I got to click on some things. So, level 100 talents for Resto Shamans. What we doing?
Okay. I don't. You can't throw something like that.
No, I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now.
No, like, what do you want me to do? Like, you're a horrible human being.
I know. Talk about it. Go.
I don't know. Shaman stuff and spells and things. Okay, so Cloudburst Totem versus. I don't know what you want me to do with this. You're a joke, and I hate you. You know what? You just do it, because screw you.
Wow. First,
I'm just gonna do that because you know what?
So yeah, your level 100 talents you're looking for Resto Shaman are the following. You've got Cloudburst Totem, Storm Elemental Totem, and High Tide, which Cloudburst is a short cooldown, yay, more micromanagement, that collects healing, and after 15 seconds, it explodes to put that healing out as a healing meteor. And then Storm Elemental Totem is a 5-minute, another giant cooldown that does some damage and heals around it 15 yards for 100% of his damage it deals. And High Tide is basically super chain heal. That's about, yeah. So, what do you guys take? Do you just have High Tide forever? Have you ever actually used Storm Elemental and felt like, yeah, this is doing good things? Keehn?
No, Storm Elemental is a pretty wasted talent. I mean,
yeah, a little
the
bit,
level 100 row is pretty much without discussion. It's almost High Tide with the secure winner. I haven't actually tested Cloudburst Totem because I think to me it feels like it's a clunky mechanic, because you have to plan out 15 seconds before you cast it that we're going to take this damage and it's going to do minor healing.
That's about it, really. I mean, I wait for more because I don't know if you have more to go with. That's fine. There's nothing really. Vixin though likes Cloudburst Totem somewhat a little bit. What do you think?
I'm the one person who likes Cloudburst Totem. I used Cloudburst Totem for some progression encounters only because The healing comp that we used was not heavily absorb based. So we did have more people who stayed injured for longer. Twin Orgron was a great example. I actually did use Cloudburst on them in progression. I think I had close to about, and I'll have to check, I have it up. I think it was about 7% of my total effective healing done and 9.5% overhealing, which is really good for me. But that was because of the strat that we used. Now, as we've gone into farm mode, and even as we went into week 2,
Right.
The potential use for Cloudburst just went out the window because people had more mana to burn because our discs were that much stronger. And this was before the Power Word Shield slight nerf.
Yeah.
So Cloudburst
Marginal.
just wasn't, it just wasn't doing. So I had to concede and move over to the High Tide family. But it suited. But the concept is great. I think the concept is when people are injured, and because it only heals injured people, it does not do the blanket heal like it used to. It targets those injured people and adjusts the healing that it does accordingly. The healing that it collected, it'll distribute among only injured people. Now it can overheal, but it will smart heal. So it can be good, but you need people to be injured for it to be effective, and that just isn't, like we said, it's just not the case anymore. So that prediction of 15 seconds ahead of time, you have no idea if the revival is going to come in and snipe it, if somebody's going to use a mitigation cooldown and you suddenly won't take damage. Your disc has been really proactive and has shielded everybody. All those things can really impact Cloudburst. So High Tide becomes the de facto choice. And that's only going to get stronger as we go into Blackrock with the tier bonuses.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, both of your tier bonuses help chain heal. So why would you not take super chain heal? I mean, having a 5-minute cooldown that only heals for its damage done based off your spell power for a minute, which is sort of like just another healing stream totem that just looks cooler. And then Cloudburst, which Hunting Bear actually brings up in chat, from someone who doesn't use, hasn't played Resto. I talked about this before. It looks like something that would really, really benefit intelligent use.
Mm-hmm.
But as you just said too, it doesn't, because it can be.
It's just not rewarding enough.
Yeah.
Use.
It's like Mushroom Explosion, but worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is really. It
Way
honestly
worse.
is.
It is. And I think it could be good. And I think the idea of it being very mana efficient, it's incredibly mana efficient. You don't need to spend any more mana than you normally would to get this bonus healing. And it can be burst. It can help save a raid. It works really well, when you can time it with Spirit Link. But again, for all of that micromanagement that it takes, and the devs had talked about this, if I remember correctly, at BlizzCon, about talents that the talents that are passive should have less of an impact and less of a bonus than the talents that require management. And this is a talent that requires a ton of management to make effective. And if it works with your play style, you can make it work. But if it doesn't, there's no reason to battle with it. There's no reason to try to make it work, because you can just as easily turn to High Tide, pop in Glyph of Riptide the world, and have your chain heal bouncing everywhere.
Yeah. I think it was brought up in chat earlier because basically all Cloudburst Totem is Mushroom Boom from Mop that Druids had. Should Cloudburst, when it bursts, be an absorb shield on everyone that it hits instead of being this really kind of trickly heal?
No more absorbs. Stop it. Make it stop.
Yeah.
That would be great. It would be effective. We could join the absorb classes. It's completely contrary to the shaman model. It doesn't help with our deep healing. I mean, sure, we could do that.
I just
No,
it was
I don't
humoring
think-
chat room, yeah. Yeah.
No more absorbs.
No more absorbs.
No, please no more absorbs.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when you're talking about changes to Cloudburst, how can you make it useful? Maybe making the penalty, nerf death. Maybe making the penalty for a snipe not as harsh. So instead of having it explode over a certain amount of time, having it release over a certain amount of time. So if you have a snipe that happens somewhere, maybe it can't get fully sniped, or make the cooldown shorter, or make it triggerable after a certain amount of time. I mean, the problem is you do have to reward that intelligent gameplay, and right now it's not there, but part of that is just the lack of damage to heal.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, Keehn, have you, like I said, with you rolling EB the entire expansion, have you just rolled High Tide the entire expansion so far?
Yeah, for me it hasn't been a choice. I don't feel any of the other talents can compare or compete.
Yeah.
It just feels superior in every way.
So, did you have any thoughts? I usually don't ask questions like this, but I mean, because I'm never going to nerf a talent, do you have thoughts to what they could do to Cloudburst, like what we were just talking about? Another talent in its place?
Well, they could make it like a pulsing heal, so that wouldn't. I don't know. It feels stupid and it's clunky.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know how to fix it. It's
just not because like, originally I thought like it'd be kind of a neat thing. I think that my biggest complaint about looking at it from the outside in is that it automatically blows up after 15 seconds, which that means so much can change in 15 seconds.
Absolutely.
They should probably make it up or stay up for a longer time so that you can charge up more healing and then make a huge burst healing instead of just a tiny bit.
Yeah, well, that's what Boom Shroom was in Mop, and as Affinity can attest to, wasn't that good.
Well, interestingly, Cloudburst's first iteration was exactly the Boom Shrooms.
Was it really? Wow.
It collected overhealing that you did and then distributed that overhealing. And I remember when that talent first came out in that design state, the initial idea was, what? Like you want to reduce overhealing. This is entirely contrary to our mastery. It's entirely contrary to the healing model. So this is marginally better. We've moved progressively towards something that's better, but I'd like to see it be a potential for a spread healing solution, since that is what we need so much. And we've said, you talk to almost any shaman out there, I think, Resto Shaman, and they'll say, what do you struggle with? Spread rate healing, spread rate healing, spread. Like, you'll just hear it consistently. And I'd like to see it be something that really challenges it, because then it makes sense with Storm Elemental Totem, if that's doing the amount of healing it should, because you have your collapsed raid healing solution, you have High Tide, which is kind of your middle ground, and then you have Cloudburst, which can potentially hit all the people at range if redesigned. And then you have something that means that translates to meaningful choices when you're getting prepped for an encounter. You're thinking about, how do I use this talent, instead of just saying, I'll take the one that, benefits my chain heal and call it a day.
Yeah, like my biggest thing with High Tide, and probably why it's such a no-brainer, is that it makes your chain heal no longer diminish in power, which gaining 2 extra bounces as it is seems strong enough to me. Why does it then make it not diminish so you can get 5 full powered hits? Granted, and all those hits, of course, with it, if they're on riptided targets, because the 2 extra ones have to be, those get the benefit from being riptided, right? Or no?
I believe so, yes.
So, yeah, that's so much synergy, man. Too much synergy.
It's a good talent, and it's only going to get better as we're able to spam more chain heals. It's going to get that much better along with it.
Yeah, it's a bit awkward to build a tire bonus entirely around a talent. It feels like it's built entirely around the talent.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because you're almost like you have to take High Tide with your tier 17 4-piece.
Yeah, exactly.
At least your 2-piece. Because not taking it and only getting 3 bounces and having the last 2 diminish just doesn't seem like it's going to make sense, because your nether winded out chain heal is so important. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at this way. If Cloudburst, do you think it would be neat or worthwhile if Cloudburst sort of acted like Prismatic Crystal on mages, where you drop the Cloudburst and you heal it, and then as you're healing it, it pulses a stronger heal because you're focusing it through your totem? Is that a thing? I'm just like, that was a spitball.
You're healing something else to heal something else?
Yeah! Yes! Well, hey, mages damage something else, damage something else. Okay, it's there.
I don't know. I think it does need to be reworked. I don't know about the mechanic. The mechanic as it stands right now, I like the fact that it's burst, because we struggle with burst. Long cast times mean that we consistently struggle with handling burst, because we can set things up, but if burst happens and we haven't anticipated it yet, and you don't have those rolling riptided targets, or maybe your ascendance isn't up or something, you can struggle with it. So I like it in concept as being a burst, but yeah, it's just how to make it attractive when you have High Tide looking so damn appealing.
Right. I don't know. Well, let's break down some bosses then. I'm gonna run through. Let's get like what do you guys normally take? Keehn, like what's your normal spec layout here? Because I mean, I guess the 15 and 30 sort of don't matter as much for Resto Shaman, and arguably 45 sort of don't either. But I mean, as Resto, because
there's a raw throughput increase in the little 45 talents, where you can reset the cooldowns on your healing stream totem.
Oh, right.
So you can just pop it, and then when it's finished, you reset its cooldown, and then you drop it again.
Yeah.
So you just have 30 seconds of healing stream totem being up.
That's true. With Call of the Elements, you're totally right. You're totally right. So that sounds almost like a no-brainer on that talent, because you don't need persistence, you don't need projection really as Resto. So, but I mean, I was setting up the show looking at that 60, 75, 90, and 100 have all, well, not really 100, we are talking about that with High Tide, have changes for you. So, like, what do you take for 60 usually, Keehn?
Ancestral Swiftness, because I like the passive haste, and I like having a panic heal, or a heal to use on the move, because we are struggling on the move, even though we have the Spirit Walker's Grace. And then, I just don't feel the need for the cooldown haste and elemental mastery, and I don't feel Echo of the Elements provide that big a boost compared to the Ancestral Swiftness.
Right. You think that might change with the supposed change to Echo? Maybe more situational where you can go back and forth between Echo and AS, possibly?
I think Echo will have some situational use, depending on which boss fight you're on and which mechanics you're trying to use Spirit Link on to prevent too much death.
Right. What about 75s? Vixin, you and Keehn, do you both just take rushing streams?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. I mean, I guess you said conductivity for Butcher.
Yeah. I think it has some value, because you can just keep healing rain down and focus on chaining, and you don't have a lot of spread heal when people soak these ads when they move into the boss.
Yeah.
So you just have healing rain down for 30 seconds, and then he makes the charge, and then you drop it again in melee, and then rinse and repeat.
Fair enough. And then possibly no real upgrade, even though AG is getting buffed possibly in 6-1, probably not gonna really. It's too situational. You'd have to really use it with Ascendance or with Healing Tide Totem, right, to really make it worth the damn. So that's just a coupling.
I don't think it's value enough to take it.
Yeah. So
I mean, there's always the hope that we'll see the same sort of AG performance that we did in Terrace of the Endless Spring, where AG coupled with Ascendance could just absolutely god mode us in Sulong. But I just don't know that we're going to come across it given the current power.
I don't think so either.
Maybe as our spell power goes up, and we start really getting some hard-hitting spells, we might see it become more beneficial if we have stacked burst. But that's a maybe. I just don't see, again, with movement, rushing streams being being bad.
Yeah, right. And then we come to it again. We talked about EB a lot at the beginning of the show, and right now you both sort of have to feel like you're forced into Elemental Blast because of the 1,000 spirit gain for 8 seconds, then a 12-second cooldown. But I mean, are there any fights that you guys would take PE or Unleash Fury? Do either of you, Vixin, do you dabble in either of these talents?
I took Primal Elementalist for Kargath because it wasn't a very mana-intensive fight for me.
Okay.
So I took it there. I took it also on... I had to go back through logs. For Twin Orgon, strictly because I wanted the damage reduction.
Okay.
I was really struggling in progression with that damage that was going out. So having that the Earth Elemental channeling on me was of huge benefit there. And I did actually both. I did some for Korag with Elemental Blast and some with Primal Elementalist. I mean, Primal Elementalist is definitely a throughput gain. It's a straight throughput
on
gain.
both
So if you can
totems,
so if you can make it work, that's always going to be the way that you want to go. You want to make Primal Elementalist work. So it was really a question of looking at my how I was spending my mana and what sort of things I was healing. Could I make it work without using Elemental Blast? And in cases where I could, I did take it.
Yeah.
But on a fight like Imperator, where you've got a long fight ahead of you, and you
13
want to
minutes or so.
you want to be able to use as much chain heal as you can. You just can't get away from Elemental Blast.
Right. Yeah, and Keehn, you've been EB the whole expansion.
Yeah, but I mean, if we had the region through Spirit or Gear alone, I think Primal Elementalist would be a far better choice for pure output.
Yeah.
And then again, for the 20% reduction from the Earth Elemental, that's a very nice bonus to have as well.
So no love for Unleashed Fury, the extra single target 50%, really not. That's Psy though.
I liked it. Well, when I was charged with healing the blue mushrooms on Brackenspore, I went with Unleashed Fury because to me, it made sense when my healing surge was constituting 50% of my healing done, and my job was to keep those things alive for as long as possible. Unleashed Fury made sense. The burst, mana wasn't a problem, so I wasn't going to go Elemental Blast, and Primal Elementus would have been beneficial, but again, because it made sense with my healing assignment and the way that we were choosing to heal the fight, yeah, I did go with Unleashed Fury. Yeah. But I think that's a very select situation where you would.
Yeah. Keehn, what about you? Any love for UF?
I don't like it. I can't see too much use for it. I mean, I can see the idea for Brackenspore with the shrooms, but that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I like to heal in PvP when I go Resto. So like Unleash Life and Unleash Fury is obviously a big benefit to on a Sealing Surge in PvP situations, because you really can't always cast EBs and your totems just get killed anyway. So that's about the only implication I can think for it. But yeah, that's a rough spot. So I know chat room prefaces before when I brought up the 100 talents. Like, is there any class that doesn't have dead 100 talents? And it's weird, man. I mean, is the Storm Elemental buff that's coming in, the 30% damage done, which will increase healing done, going to be a maybe? Because I wonder if
considering a 4-piece or a tie bonus, it will just forget about it.
Yeah. Because normally, if I think in a healer perspective, if you take Storm Elemental, you'd kind of want to take Primal Elementalist as well. So you would have like 3 big 1-minute cooldowns. So you get, a throughput cooldown into an AoE extra healing cooldown into a throughput cooldown. So for 3 minutes, you're like a super shaman with his totem buddy, right? But no, you're just shaking your head.
That's the fantasy. It's not the reality.
Right. Yeah.
Story. I mean, even if they buff Storm Elemental's output by 30%, he still does nothing. So we're gonna have 30% of like 10,000 healing. So it's still not great. It's still not gonna be a difference.
Oh my goodness! I can't wait till we get to Resto Druids, Effie, so we can like go over and see how many dead talents you guys have. But like, what do you?
It's all bad.
How does it look from you from the outside in? Because you haven't played your Resto very much. Like hearing that you sort of have like one. I mean, I'm bringing up on the screen right now. You kind of have like one spec for Resto. So
Druid are kind of the same way, though. I mean, you might maybe have choice on a couple of fights, maybe, but it's super situational. So, I mean, it doesn't really surprise me that the balance of the talents across the board hasn't been too great for other classes as well.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize until Keehn brought it up, like with your tier 45 with Call the Elements, that's a healing benefit. So like you almost have to take it. Again, that's a have to take.
But then you have to keep in mind that if you take that, you have to move to melee if you want to toss Spirit Link Totem on the melee group.
Exactly.
That's true, though.
I
I
mean,
was going to
I
say,
personally like
sorry.
totemic projection because you have the utility to just toss around your totems at will.
So has that been a benefit you guys actually have worked around? Because I don't think we've ever had our Resto Shaman throw a Spirit Link. We've always like stack on the, get in the wet, get in the water, get your socks wet, and then Spirit Link it. But that is a good point. I guess you could throw it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I loved Call of the Elements. I steadfastly clung to Call of the Elements all throughout Mists. But when it comes to this tier and the amount of movement and the amount of times that I need to place a Spirit Link totem and I can't be there and I don't want to take the 2-3 seconds to run into melee either because it's going to have an adverse effect like on Butcher. I sure as heck don't want to be running into melee to try to potentially throw off their stacks and drop a Spirit Link.
Right.
Or because I'm moving in a different position and I need to cool down a specific group of people, I stick with Totem Throw most of the time. Now, when I was clinging to Cloudburst, I'd take Totemic Persistence, only because Cloudburst and Healing Stream are the same.
Oh, true. Okay.
So I found that interaction to be a little bit awkward without it, but now that Cloudburst has officially been retired for the time being for me, I stick with Totemic Projection as well.
Yeah, that's a small choice because chat room brought that up too. Because you can actually Healing Tide Totem with Healing Stream Totem with Persistence.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that could be a little bit of a gain, but that's just so. That's tying it around a 3-minute cooldown too. So.
Yeah, it's not going to be a big effect. I mean, it meant a lot during Siege because we had Mana Tide as well. So we had 3 water totems we had to manage at the same time. And then having that talent just gave a lot of freedom. So we could just throw down Healing Stream Totem and then, oh, I just got Mana Tide, so I'll just put it down as well. Without having to recall Healing Stream Totem and lose whatever duration it had left.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. What are you doing?
I closed out of my documents.
Oh.
No. Fail.
This
Hold the phone.
Hold the phone. All right. Well, wait. Well, back to one.
Don't say hold the
Back
phone.
to one.
Wait. 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 Okay, just go. Just whatever. Just go.
Just go. No,
Just go.
you think? No, it's just
Just
a wrap. I just wanted to know if the Resto Shamans had anything else to close with.
No,
wanted to-
other than Nerf disc.
Well,
And episode.
that's what you want to soapbox about.
Yes, I know. We'll leave that for the Resto Druid episode, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it was a pretty good show overall as far as the goods and the bads of Shaman. But I mean, if there is anything else you guys have to add, I guess now would be the final opportunity to do so.
Yeah. Any nuggets you want to leave your Resto Shaman brethren and sisters out there, Keehn?
Is there hope?
Is there hope? Oh no. That's always like that's what Blood Death Knights too. Like it was like just hold true, friends. It'll be better. Maybe. Keehn, what do you think? What do you got? Anything?
Well, I still don't think we are that far behind, but looking over logs, obviously we are in between 10 or 20% behind most other healers. So we definitely need a buff somehow.
Somehow. But you have no idea what it could be.
Nope.
Perfect. Vixin, anything to soapbox?
No, I mean, I think that there is always the idea that the world is ending with Resto Shaman and we're not going to get brought and everything else. And I think that, again, it's sometimes hard to distinguish like the top level of play from a lower level of play. I mean, even if we're just talking about the difference between the top 10 in the world and the top 50 in the world, there's such a distinction there. And so I feel like a lot of the critiques that come out of Shaman balance, especially when you look at combat log sites and you look at the 99th percentile and you say, oh, there's this vast difference. But if you dial that down and start going down into the logs a little bit deeper and start looking at the 80th percentile, the 70th percentile, etc., you start to see the classes become a lot more close and you start to see that balance become a little more present. And I think if anything, Shaman should hearten to that and say, you know what, screw it. I don't really care if the top 99th percentile is somehow someone who's abusing the fight and is,
Right.
making everybody stand in fire so that they can get super awesome disc parses or something like that. Screw them. Like, I always think
Right.
the positive message should be, you know what, you can do it. Don't think that anyone else can tell you what your top end healing should be. Designers and theory crafters alike. You shouldn't feel awful about your shaman simply because someone has a complaint about the class or says that they need a buff. I think there are a number of shaman out there who would probably, if I say we need a buff, would say, I'm doing just fine, thank you, and I'm annihilating my raid team, and I'll take that buff. And good on them. Like, I think it's so subjective. It's really easy to say we're doing badly, and a number of people to speak up and say, all evidence to the contrary.
Fair enough. I mean, you blog
So there's
about
my
this
positive.
stuff. Right, yeah. I guess that's fair. I don't know. It's just weird because I don't know what propagates. Again, it's because of the healing mantra they chatted for so long and Warlords didn't really happen. And we brought up a lot of interesting little points that I didn't know of. I mean, I learned things. So,
Yay.
Yay!
I as far as I know, they're never going to nerf the more powerful. So they have to kind of bring up the weaker one. That's sort of how they work. Even though it's weird because it didn't work out for DPS very well. Arcane mages! So yeah. But I think it's button time, friends. I think this is a good time for the... Oh, there it is. Alrighty. Well, thank you all for tuning in and watching the episode today about Resto Shamans. If you have any questions for our guests, of course, we're going to come back for an after show after a quick little break. But before we get into that, we had Keehn from Danish Terrace. You can follow them over on danishterrace.dk. Thank you, sir. Hopefully you have an awesome castle view right now. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. I have an awesome view.
Yeah? Is it pretty good?
Yeah, lake view, and
Ooh.
it's all dark outside.
Ooh, very nice. A
In
lake
the
view.
middle of the night.
Very cool. Very cool. Vixsin from Promethean and Life in Group 5. You can go follow her on Twitter at Vixin_LIG5. Thank you for coming back on the show. It was awesome. What? What are you laughing at me for?
I'm just
Oh, you
Just sink out of camera.
I'm gonna
view.
sink out of camera.
It was awesome. Hopefully bring you back on maybe in the next episode, maybe in the future expansion. Who knows?
Look forward to it.
Awesome. And my guest co-host for today was this tall, skinny guy. I don't know. Affinity. He's on Twitter too at Affinity US. He's wearing the right colors now though. Yeah, Alliance. Whoop.
Woo.
Woo. So
Garrisons are better. That's all that counts. The garrisons are awesome.
they are better. The Horde Garrison's kind of weird.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Might be back on for the next 4 healing episodes. Affy, thinking about it?
Well, it depends on if I can, if you want me to butcher those too. So we'll see.
Oh my God.
We'll see.
Right. Right. Of course.
It'll get better.
And then, of course,
I look forward to it.
Adam K, aka Bayo, is the host of this little shindig. You can find everything about Final Boss at FinalBossTV. There might be some weird website stuff going on soon because we're working on the next version of it. So that starts like this weekend. But next week is going to be either Shadow Priests or Boomkin, who are both in very awkward spots right now. Boomkin is greatly powerful, but it's not that fun to play. And then Shadow Priest is like, meh. We'll see. Details, of course, on who our guests are going to be on social media later in the week when we set them up. That'll be our next episode. Range DPS, Shadow Priest, or Boomkins. I don't know yet. Scheduling is weird. Thank you all very much for watching. See you for the after show. If you have any questions for our guests, trust in the seal of tempered fate. And then we'll see you next week, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Wave goodbye. Wave to the peoples. Wave, Vixin, wave. Don't. Thank you. Jeez, it's so hard. My goodness.